but we certainly appreciate you taking time out to come and hear some very vital and life-saving information in terms of what we can do to really change the economic condition of ourselves, our family, and our community. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and begin our program, but before, as customary according to African tradition, I want to ask my elders for permission to speak.
Go ahead.
Madasi, thank you. To do libation for us. Let's give Baba Oshi a round of applause.
In keeping with our custom, although I'm an elder too, but there are esteemed elders amongst us, those men and women who have championed our struggle for liberation and self-determination. Of one of the greatest civilizations on this planet, it gave the world the basic disciplines of knowledge of science, math, architecture, music, writing, law, religion, you name it, we did it. The Greeks call it Egypt, but they call themselves Kemet. And Kemet means land of the blacks. I greet you all in the Kemetic language, in the word of peace. I greet you all, hotel. Let me greet you in other languages of our people. Ajambo, Alafia, Amarayani, Assalamu alaikum. Yo, what's up? What's happening? It is always a privilege and an honor to pour libation to the ancestors because we truly do stand on their shoulders. They have sacrificed much, and because of their sacrifice and their suffering, the nation, bless you, we are here. We're going to use water because water has no enemies. Water is a great cleanser, the great purifier. Everything on the planet that lives, from a tiny microscopic organism to a tall redwood tree, it needs water. And we're going to pour water into the earth to invoke the spirits of our ancestors. We say the word Ashe. Say Ashe. Ashe. It simply means so be. It's like when Big Mama or Medea laid the law down, you knew there was no more discussion. So be it. So we're going to pour this libation to God for all that God has done and for all that God will do. You say Ashe? Ashe. We pour this libation to Mother Africa, birthplace of all humanity. Everyone who has lived, everyone who is living, everyone who will live in the future, we all have a common ancestral root in Africa. We say Ashe? Ashe. We pour this libation to those classical civilizations of Africa. I mentioned Kemet. Kemet was the height, the zenith, the apex of African high culture. Truly, people came from far and wide to sit at the feet of African people. I know for a lot of young people it's hard to fathom, but even older people, because we've been led to believe that we have never done nothing, that we were running around the jungle with a rag up our butt and a bone through our nose, never having created a civilization of any kind, and nothing could be furthest from the truth. People came from far and wide to sit at our feet to learn these things. And then, of course, they stole it. They put their names on it. But we poured this libation to those classical civilizations. Not just Kemet, there was also Tiberia, there was Punt, there was Nubia, great African civilizations. You say Ashe? We pour this libation to contemporary civilizations of Africa, of Ghana, Mali, Zangai, Benin, Great Zimbabwe, African civilizations that were flourishing and teaching still, even while the European was still in a dark age, in a medieval age. So we pour this libation to those great contemporary African civilizations. Say Ashe? Ashe. We pour this libation to the Ma'afa, the Infakana, the Holocaust of our enslavement. There's a lot of times in this libation that I do, and I tailor it. I sometimes make it short, sometimes make it long. But I know sometimes I don't talk about this tragedy enough or long enough because it's painful. A lot of us are embarrassed because of it. But the reality is why we're suffering today is because of it. You don't understand it. We don't understand the dynamics and how it continues to play a role in our daily lives. So we pour this libation to the suffering of our brothers and sisters. We don't know their names, but because of what happened on the continent, what happened in the Middle Passage, what happened in this hemisphere throughout the diaspora, we continue to suffer to this day because of the Ma'afa, the Infakana, the Holocaust of our enslavement. So we pour this libation to those brothers and sisters. We 19 times she went from the south to the north, freeing our people, carrying a gun. Not for her protection, she carried a gun because she said, I know if you don't run, you're going to tell. So you better get the step of God's right. A bounty on her head that would be equivalent to $1 million today. So we pour this libation to those men and women who continue to this day fighting for the liberation of our people, fighting against the enslavement of our people. In fact, as I said about a slave is somebody or something that submits its will to a master. A slave is somebody or something that submits its will to a master. Some of us are more of a slave today than we were in our initial captivity because some of us have submitted our will to drugs, to sex, to vice, to ignorance, and to stupidity. So we pour this libation for the brothers and sisters who fought against enslavement. Is that Shay? We pour this libation to the brothers and sisters of the 60s. I see y'all in the room. When we understood, we talked about brothers and sisters giving us a Black Power salute and a Black Power handshake, forming organizations like SNCC, like CORE, like the Black Panther Party, Republic of New Africa, struggling for us to be the kind of self-determined people we must be. So we pour this libation to that spirit. I grew up at that time. I remember Brother Hakeem. I'm from Milwaukee, going to RNA meetings and so forth. I understand that spirit. I hope that spirit continues on in our people. It's passed down because it was a beautiful spirit. Unfortunately, we didn't have the cultural connection with that spirit. That's unfortunate. But we pour this libation to brothers and sisters of the 60s. We say, Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation to those unborn, those young men and women who once again lead us back on the stage of human history as a free and proud and productive people. We say, Ashe. Ashe. We pour this libation to our ancestors. Dr. Antonio Yosef Ben Jokanan or Jokanan is now a part of the Yogun, part of the ancestor realm, and we pour this libation in his honor and many other of our ancestors who were warrior scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Amos Wilson, so many. But because of what we're doing and what we're about, I'm asking you to call out the names. And it may not be the ones that I just mentioned, but maybe somebody special in your life. We're asking them to join us, to be with us, to continue to help and motivate and guide and inspire us to be the kind of men and women we must be as an example to our children. So I'm asking you to call out the names. 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 Ashe. Because by calling their name, you keep their memory and their spirit alive. When your family comes together for whatever the occasion, somebody stand up and say, we pouring this libation to Uncle Ujima and UJAMAA. We pouring this libation to the guy that helped me, who was the janitor at the school, who inspired me to be the best man I could be. We're pouring this libation for all the sisters that helped me become the woman that I became, all those who came before us. So we're going to pour this libation to the spirit of us lifting us. For brothers and sisters coming together, understanding the importance of being a collective body, the importance of sharing resources. We're pouring this libation so that we can feel the spirit and the generation of us truly lifting us as a model for the future of our people. Brothers and sisters, let us say Ashe.
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 Shem Hotep, go in peace. Asante Sana, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baba Oshe, for that wonderful libation. At this time, we're going to go ahead and call Mama Bantu, who's going to lead us in the singing of the Black National Anthem. Will you please stand to your feet and let us welcome Mama Bantu again as she leads us in the singing of the Black National Anthem.
Everybody standing, you know, sometimes some of our young people don't know the meaning of this song and why we stand. We don't sit down on Lift Every Voice and sing.
That's right.
Because it's a very powerful song that depicts, you know, who we are as a people. So I'm going to start off, and I know some of you in the room know this song. Come along and sing with me. Moji and Billy Tatu, lift every voice and sing till there's a listening sight. Let every sound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us.
Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Give it up one more time for Mama Bantu, y'all. Sister Jinda, okay. Why are we here? Why are we here? It's an excellent question. We are here because African survival is important to us. We are here because we are currently engaged in a long, protracted war for African survival on planet Earth.
That's right.
And there is nothing more fundamental to a people than developing the systems, the plans, and the processes that will ensure our survival on this planet. Will we be successful?
Yeah.
Will we be successful?
Yes.
Will our children have a future? Will our grandchildren have a future on this land?
Yes.
We have to, and many of us are, committed to ensuring that we have a permanent place as a race of African people on this planet. We are dedicating our time, our energy, as well as our resources, not for ourselves, but for future generations. Amos Wilson told us years ago that a people that are dependent on another group for their survival cannot fight against that force effectively.
All right.
And so if racism, white supremacy is the order of the day, then we have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do to overthrow white supremacy? And if the nature of what we are facing, if we play this forward, ensures the genocide of our people, then we know we have to come up with a different plan.
That's right.
We have to understand the theater of war that we are currently engaged in. And guess what? Business is war.
That's right.
Business is war. These vendors that we see in this building, they are currently engaged in warfare. Those of us who are seated, we are currently engaged in warfare. But the question is, where are you positioned in that? Are you actively trained? Do you understand what we are facing? Or are you one of those shrapnel-impaled bystanders who are wondering what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I don't know if many of you are aware, but the news is reporting that there was a brother that was found hanging from a tree in Mississippi.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Not in 1929.
Okay.
We're talking 2015. We're talking 2 days ago, 48 hours ago. There was a body of an African man found hanging from a tree in Mississippi. I saw this post initially on Facebook and I read a few of the comments, and some of the people said, I guess black folks need to leave Mississippi. Brothers and sisters, that kind of thinking needs to stop, because we can no longer run from this enemy. This enemy is global.
That's right.
There is no place that we can run. And I question our reasons for wanting to do so.
Right.
I question our reasons for wanting to turn our back as men on our women and our babies. For those of us who are members of ULU, we thank you for sticking your necks out on behalf of yourself, your family, and your community. But for those of you who are not yet members of this collective, you've got a choice to make. Are we going to continue to go down this road of destruction because it's insured?
That's right.
Or are we going to take control of the economics of our community and change the power relationship between blacks and whites in this country? That is the only way our survival will be ensured. That is the only way. So again, the most fundamental thing to human survival is developing a sound economic plan and process that ensures that. We ain't talking about money. We're talking about African relationships. We're talking about relating to ourselves in such a way that no enemy on the face of the planet Earth can deal with us, can oppress us and exploit us. That's what we're talking African power.
That's right.
And if you're not here to build African power, then you're in the wrong building.
That's right.
If you are afraid to face your enemy head on and do what's absolutely necessary for our children, you're in the wrong building.
All right.
You're at the wrong conference and you're at the wrong place, because we're talking African power. That's the only conversation that matters.
Right.
Baba Chinwe Izu said years ago, the problem of the 21st century is the problem of African power. How do we build it and enough of it to sustain African life on planet Earth? That's what we're dealing with. So warmed over capitalism and blackface, brothers and sisters, won't cut it.
Right.
Look into Capitol Hill at a black man who looks like you and I but thinks like our enemy, that won't work. Continuing to put our faith in celebrities won't work. Continuing to follow the idle chatter on social media won't cut it. Because again, there was a black man, an African man hanging from a tree, found 2 days ago. 2 days ago. And the stakes could not be any higher, brothers and sisters.
What?
Do we need to say more? We're going to go ahead and bring up our panelists at this time. Jessica Gordon-Nembard. Dr. Nembard is a professor of community justice and social economic development in the Department of Africana Studies at John Jay College of the City of New York. She recently completed a year as a visiting scholar in the Economics Department Center on Race and Wealth at Howard University, and was master teacher at the Center's Summit Institute for Research on Race and Wealth. She has also been a visiting scholar at the Center for the Study of Cooperatives at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada, and is a research affiliate for the Center's Linking Leverage Learning, Social Enterprise, Knowledgeable Economies, and Sustainable Communities Project, and co-investigator for the Measuring the Impact of Credit Unions, Community and University Research Partnership Project at the Center for the Study of Cooperatives. Dr. Gordon Nimbard is a political economist specializing in community economic development, wealth inequality, black political economy, popular economic literacy, and community justice. Her research has focused on community and asset-based economic development and democratic community economics, cooperative economics and worker ownership, racial and economic wealth inequality and wealth accumulation in communities of color, and alternative urban economic youth educational development strategies. Her future research and policy analysis will connect community-based economic development, asset building, and economic justice strategies with community-based approaches to justice. She is also the author of Collective Courage, which chronicles the history of African American cooperative business ownership and its place in the movement of black civil rights and economic equality.
Our next panelist is Brother Kimbezi. Brother Kimbezi was born in Brooklyn. I'm not as tall as DJ. Can you guys hear me? Brother Kimbezi was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Queens, New York. Brother Kimbezi is a product of the New York City public school system, graduating with honors from Andrew Jackson High School in 1966. He attended the historic March on Washington with his family and faith community in August of 1963, where Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech and the experience of being among the 250,000 marchers left an indelible impression on his life. He went on to attend Syracuse University from 1966 to 1970, majoring in political science with a history minor. While at Syracuse University, he served as president of the Student African American Society, which successfully agitated for the creation of an African American Studies Department, a Black Student Cultural Center, and the Martin Luther King Memorial Library, which became permanent fixtures at Syracuse University. Brother Kimbezi was a member of the Committee for a Unified Newark and the Congress of African People under the dual leadership of Amiri Baraka and Dr. Molani Karenga. From 1995 to 2008, Brother Kimbezi was active with the Shrines of the Black Madonna and First African Church, where he taught classes and led seminars. An avid reader of African history and student of Kemetic philosophy, Brother Kimbezi is currently researching the intersection of culture and economics. Brother Kimbezi has been married to Zira Merritt for 33 years, and they are proud parents of two daughters, Faraha, am I saying that right? A magnet student and junior at Southwest DeKalb High School, and Naomi, who is currently pursuing a Master's of Social Work degree at Clark University. Welcome, Brother Kimbezi.
Our third panelist is Brother Ankh Aku. Brother Ankh Aku is an initiate into the Kemetic spiritual system under Muata Ashby. He has pioneered an African-centered approach to marketing that gives Black business people the core power to neutralize racism through better marketing. He teaches that the only power held over us is our inability to become effective marketers. He has created a paradigm that allows us to establish and deliver our value to the world in a compelling way. Brother Ankh is a trained guerrilla marketing coach and consultant specializing in profit-focused guerrilla marketing. He is also the owner of Better Marketing Mastery, a company that provides marketing training and consulting for small business owners. Ankh was founder and former president of the Ujima Business Association. He has been a featured business writer for the South Florida Times and has been labeled local marketing expert by the Miami Herald. Brother Ankh is an innovator, trainer, and the creator of several marketing training programs such as How to Thrive in a Recession, Profit Tsunami, The Secrets of Monetization, and Better Marketing Mastery program. Ankh is happily married to his wife of 4 years and is the proud father of a homeschooled 3-year-old daughter. He was part of the South Florida community for almost 20 years and has recently relocated to Atlanta. Let us give all of our panelists a rousing round of applause. We flipped a coin to decide or to determine who would go first in their opening. And when Ankh was chosen, I said, oh man, here we go. So Brother Ankh, if you don't mind, go ahead and give us your opening statement. And then next will be Brother Kimbezi, and then followed by Dr. Jessica Gordon-Embar.
All right. Greetings. Greetings, brothers. How's everybody doing today? Always a pleasure to be in the presence of conscious African people in the throes of understanding what the problems are and looking carefully at the solutions and being very solution focused. It is an honor to share the panel. I've heard a lot about my sister here, your book, and DJ told me about his experience with you last year in Mississippi. And I've had a chance to YouTube and so on. So I look forward to that, and also Brother Kimbezi, who I've known now. I'm very thankful for your presence, and we look forward to a great day. I don't have a specific, really drawn-out opening. I'm going to kind of let the energy flow as it does. I think some of the points that I would have said were really made clear early on by DJ. I don't think I could say it better. When you highlight where we are right now. How many of you right now, how many of you are comfortable? That was a trick question, right? So, yes, I know you're comfortable, but in the broader context of where we are as a people, collectively, I'm asking you, are you comfortable?
No, sir.
All right? So he just told you about Mississippi, and that's just really an indicator of what's really going on. And we know there's a lot more going on than we are often aware of, being told. We haven't yet got sophisticated enough to filter, I shouldn't say we haven't gotten, you in here have, to filter out what the media tries to tell us about what our position is, what other people are telling us about how to think, how to be, where we are. You guys have made progress, so on and so forth. We know that at the end of the day, when you're in an alien culture, it's a culture that's designed not for you. Cultures are designed to solve the problems of its members. It always has been, always will be. And so we have to develop the culture that solves our problems. And we know that the capitalist format, in my assessment, basic assessment of history, has not really been extremely successful for our people. That's right. Not even close. The biggest part of it is, it's alien to us, right? So we have to find the models, the ways. We have to relearn what is our way of being and learning and growing and thinking and doing and solving our problems in the world. And so that's what we're here to discuss today, to open up that possibility. You, by being here, virtue of being here, it means you've already taken many steps on that journey to being here. This is why you're a part of ULU, and we're looking at what is the ultimate solution for us where we are. This problem is not one you solve overnight, but it's one that has to be solved. And it is my belief that everybody here right now, there is more than enough resources, knowledge, energy in this room right now to leave out that door and change the world that we so desire. And so that's our challenge to you today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters.
Good afternoon.
Brother, can we get the PowerPoint? I'm honored and privileged to sit here and share with you this afternoon. And I recognize the talent that's in the room. And I want to honor your presence by honoring the 5 minutes that's been given to me for introduction. I'm not going to be able to get all the points in that I wanted to share, but I want to get 2/3 of them in to kind of lay some foundation for our understanding of how culture and economics intersect. So I want to talk from the theme of the global imperative for UJAMAA, a global Pan-African cooperative economy for the planet. As a subcaption, Black Lives Matter, a question mark. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, first and most central of all that is under Ujima, socialism, man is the purpose of all social activity. The service of man, the furtherance of his human development, is in fact the purpose of society itself. There is no other purpose above this, no glorification of nation, no increase in production. Nothing is more central to socialist society than an acceptance that man is its justification for existence. Nyerere said that in article Uhuru na Ujima in 1968. He went on to say that, what does Ujima mean for us? How can we move towards it? The answer to these questions is in some ways implicit in the word we have chosen to describe our goal. For there was nothing accidental in our selection of the word Ujima to define our socialist policies. Nor did this word result solely from the desire to find a Swahili equivalent for the word socialism. The word Ujima was chosen for special reasons. First, it is an African word, and thus emphasizes the Africanness of the policies we intend to follow. Second, its literal meaning is familyhood, so that it brings to the mind of our people the idea of mutual involvement in the family as we know it. In contrast, next slide. In capitalist society, profit creation and acquisition is the purpose of all economic activity. Differences between people such as national origin, ethnicity, color, religion, and gender are exploited to increase profits for those atop the social pyramid. We must be absolutely clear on this point, that capitalism generates social values of white superiority / black inferiority, materialism, individualism, competition, militarism, and misogyny, which are antithetical to all life in general and to the lives of African-descended people and people of color in particular. On that point, we just simply want to reiterate the notion that capitalism is not just an economic model, it transmits a value complex. Successful black capitalism, whether in Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, or Lagos, Accra, or Dar es Salaam, still spells destruction and death for the majority of African people. The goal of our economic activity must be to foster the countervailing values of unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, faith, truth, justice, righteousness, order, balance, harmony and reciprocity, and appreciation for the divine, and a recognition of the divine order inherent in the universe. The means of production and the surplus value created by the labor of the people must be owned and controlled by all people if indeed there is to be true equality and freedom. If the goal of the continuing African liberation struggle is sovereignty, then a cooperative economic model, or Ujima, is the only system that can propel us to victory.
I say.
The intersection of worldview and the economic system. What is worldview? Worldview means how a particular people see their world, understand their world, feel about their world, and where they locate themselves in their world. Worldview reflects a people's orientation towards life and the meaning of life. A people's worldview is the expression of their deepest philosophical ideas and ideals about the purpose of existence, and as such, it invariably is the repository of their values and beliefs. Nothing is more fundamental to a society than its worldview. Because worldview encompasses so much, it may be helpful to express it as worldview/culture/values. Worldview functions like the operating system in a computer, to use a contemporary metaphor. The operating system sets the parameters for what and cannot be done on the computer. All software, that is policies and programs, must be compatible with the operating system of the computer, or the computer will not function.
Easy. You might have to stop it right here.
That's 5 minutes?
Yeah. If you could just wrap it up.
Let me just do this. Let me skip one slide. Right there. This is the crux of the economic matter. Let me just do this in 1 minute and we can move forward. In all human societies, there exists a social superstructure that rests upon an economic base or platform. The social superstructure consists of all the social institutions that supports individuals and collective life, such as family units, schools, churches, communities, organizations, communication outlets, magazines, newspapers, TV, the court system, the mayor's office. All of those social institutions make up the superstructure. They rest on an economic platform, such as the businesses, all of those systems that provide the means for food, clothing, and shelter. And the economic system houses the value systems of the society. Whatever values are in the base will be replicated and reproduced in the superstructure. So if the values at the base are white supremacy and black inferiority, materialism, individualism, competition, all of those values that are antithetical to life, those values must be replicated and duplicated in the superstructure. If we're going to have a different reality, we will have to create our own economic system with our own values that then will be reproduced in the superstructure. Those things cannot be avoided. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be in a place where people already know what a cooperative is and know why we're doing cooperation. I'm going to step back. I got into, well, I didn't get into this, but about 16 or 17 years ago, I started researching why African Americans, or how African Americans practice cooperation. Because, as you all, I was interested in solutions. And to me, the solution is, as we keep talking about, this global cooperative economics as the only way to really reflect the culture and values that we have in an economic system. But when I started talking to people about it, and I didn't know you guys then, maybe you guys weren't talking about it then, everybody told me that African American people didn't do cooperatives, right? It was a white hippie thing, it was a this, it was a that. We don't trust each other enough, we don't know about, right, we don't do it. Didn't sound right to me, it didn't make any sense. So I went on a journey to find out whether that was true or not, and luckily, and of course, I found out that wasn't true. In fact, I've been able to publish a book. I had more information that's in the book, but this is what we did for the first. I'm working on a second book now on a similar topic. And so I wanted in my time just to talk about some of the major, I guess, findings, lessons learned from the book, and then we can talk about how to proceed in the future. So the first lesson I would say is that we do have a cooperative history, a legacy to stand on, and we can continue to practice cooperative economics. In fact, we haven't stopped, right? Just being transported here. And slave ships didn't stop us. none of the other things that racism and economic exploitation have done to us have stopped us. So that's really the first major lesson, right, is we've been doing it, and we will continue, we can continue, and we should know that. Also, understanding that African Americans have a long and strong history of cooperative practice that both connects them to their African legacies and their African cultures, but also propelled them into problem solving and recreating societies that they wanted to be in here in the US or in this Western Hemisphere. We also used cooperative principles and economics in ways for both survival, but also for economic independence and for propelling the future of our community. That's really important because some of the strategies were really, we just had to survive and so we did it, but some of the strategies were extremely well thought out and part of a larger strategy that we're all talking about today. And often we don't think about that either. We just look at the individual isolated pieces, you know, somebody did a co-op here, they did a co-op there, they needed food and they did a co-op. But really, a lot of our leaders, especially by the 20th century, were talking about this larger strategy because it was important to see it as the progress that we should be making. The role of black women. You cannot tell the history of African American cooperative movement without talking about strong black women who are leaders. And it's probably the case in anything that we've done. You know, I'll champion black women all the time, but it was particularly the case in this movement that pretty much every example and all the major pieces, black women either had leadership or at least made sure the co-ops were going, moving, done. And the interesting thing is, often we're more recognized outside the black community for their co-op activity than the black men were. So a Fannie Lou Hamer, who actually most of us don't know about as being in the cooperative movement, had recognition in the co-op movement. Nannie Helen Burroughs in DC was actually asked by a lot of the white groups to be involved in cooperative activities. Helena Wilson in Chicago, through the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, was actually very well known in the co-op movement in the Midwest. So those kind of things. We also have a variety of examples. There's really almost no industry, no type of work, no circumstance where a co-op wasn't a successful model, or wasn't able to be successful, or wasn't useful. That to me is important because I'm often asked, okay, well, what's the best industry for us to get involved in, or what are the strongest ways to do a cooperative? But because the cooperative system actually is so flexible, there really is no one industry, or no one kind, or no one model. We have a lot of models, and we need to utilize that variety. We need to look at our own situation in each case and figure out which kind of cooperative model will work for us. And I was able to show you a variety of models in the book. Also, the importance of education and studying. It surprised me by the time I finished writing the book that basically every cooperative example that I found throughout our history started with some kind of study group. People coming together and saying, we have a problem, we need to figure out how we can solve it together. They discover cooperative economics and they study cooperative economics together so they can make it work, and then they opened a business. They did not say, oh, let's do a co-op and just jump into it. I didn't find any real examples of that. So that importance of the study group, the coming together, the learning, the education. Some of the groups even created courses. Like Gary, Indiana in the 30s created a high school in their night school. They created a co-op economics course that they all took, but also any of their members took because they thought it was so important to study it. The Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters had reading lists, books and articles on co-ops and consumer economics for their members to read. in order to make sure that they understood how to keep that money recirculating. It wasn't good enough just for the Brotherhood members to have good salaries as a union, but they wanted to keep that money flowing in the black community. And they found co-ops to be the solution to that. And then the other piece that actually I didn't realize until after I had started putting it all together was that the co-op movement was really a silent partner in the long civil rights movement. And by long civil rights movement, I mean our whole existence in the diaspora, fighting for our liberation, independence, resisting all the different exploitations that were put on us. I don't just mean the 50s, 60s, and 70s that people talk about for the civil rights movement, but literally at every moment in our history as a diasporic population, we not only fought for our own liberation, for our own rights, but we also used economic cooperation to support ourselves. Either, as I said, to, just to survive, to feed ourselves and feed our children, but also to give us that independence, that position of strength and independence with which to fight the political struggle. That's where Fannie Lou Hamer comes in and talks about, she started out doing voting rights, basically almost got killed for trying to teach people how to register to vote and registering to vote herself. She and her husband got thrown off their sharecropping farm because they registered to vote. In her later years, she said, we have to step back. We need to own our own land. We need to feed ourselves. We need to have our own businesses. We need to create our own housing, because when we fight politically, they can retaliate against us economically unless we have our own economic system, unless we're in control of our own economic system. And so she created Freedom Farm.
And Dr. Jessica Gordon-Emblard, we're going to have some crosstalk between the panelists. We want to definitely encourage that, but we also want to have a sound and robust Q&A session at the end of the panel discussion. So again, for clarity, anyone who has a question at the conclusion of the panel discussion will be given an opportunity to ask a question, and please frame the question as a question. Y'all know how we can be sometimes, but we will allow you to give context, because as African people, that is extremely important. But Jendaye is going to start off with the first question. And again, if those of you, the panelists, if you want to engage in some crosstalk, even if there's disagreement, that's important. That's all a part of the process, because there's no one size fits all, as the good doctor said, in terms of how we need to do it to achieve a permanent place on this planet for our race. Thank you.
Okay, I will start with a question with Dr. Nembar. Let's see. Do you feel, and this actually, some of it was answered in your intro, but if you could elaborate a little bit more, do you feel that the Black community understands and appreciates cooperatives? And if not, what's missing?
So I think we do and we don't. The do part is that we actually live cooperation in most of what we do. I mean, if you think about it, and once I started talking to groups about it and talking about what economic cooperation is, people actually could think about how they operate in their families, things their grandparents, their aunt and uncle, somebody else in their family, a project they tried to do, or a susu or other kind of group collective savings they did, that kind of stuff. So we know it and we practice it as something very organic to us, but when we talk about it as an economic strategy, when we talk about it maybe in a more intellectual or political way, people seem to shut down. So that education part, again, I think we need a variety of educations. I would love us to be teaching it in our schools, especially our Afrocentric schools, but all the schools from kindergarten to 12th grade should be studying it. In colleges we should be studying it, because people should feel comfortable about it and should understand that the things that we already do, the things that are so integral to what we feel as a people and our culture, are also things that are economic. And too often, because of capitalism, we see economics as something totally separate, right? Where you leave yourself at the door to go hire yourself out to work somewhere, right? And that there's totally separate. Cooperative economics brings it all together and shows us that it's all part of us, and we need to figure out how to talk about that more and how to get people more comfortable with that. The other thing, and then I'll stop. The other thing in the way is, being in a capitalist society, the ideology is that we should all be individualists and we should all be, trying to get that, be the Horatio Alger, get, that one great business going and make our own money on our own and forget everybody else. And we have to also fight against that ideology because that really gets in the way.
Brother, you and I talk pretty frequently about the fact that when we, as a people, begin to embrace the cultural aspects of our economic system, how do we deal effectively from what the good doctor just mentioned, that ideological difference or the internalization of the individualism, right? So that we can have a true path to liberation and sovereignty. How do we deal with that in a very practical way?
What I say to that, the easy answer is, one, we must at some point come to the conclusion that we are at war and that business is warfare. I was trained in guerrilla marketing, and I was the only black person in the room, and they made it very clear that business was war for them. It didn't even have anything to do with us at that point. It had to do with the way they were dealing with things. It changes the complexion of how you're thinking about things when you understand that, and when you look at the makeup. There's a saying that there's only one human race. And what we mean when we say something like that is that everybody comes from one family tree originally, etc. But if you look at the concept of race is competition. So you could say that there's only one competition on the planet to control the resources of the planet between different ethnic groups. There is only one human race, right? We have been kind of duped into not looking at the world or understanding that and how that impacts us, particularly because most often we've been the prize in the human race. The slavery, was about our bodies, our lands, our resources, all that. And so we've been kind of pushed into a position where we're almost conditioned by the culture not to see it that way. So part of that is the re-education piece. What I try to do with businesses is to, sometimes it's not so palatable to take it, the strong way, and I try to find other ways of communicating that and educating that. But ultimately, in terms of education and re-educating our population, particularly the business community that are the foundation of all of this, because if the businesses adopt that I gotta be a self-made millionaire mindset that she's talking about, I gotta do it all bad by myself, that kind of insanity, if that starts plaguing us, then definitely we have some challenges. So it starts with really just being aware of the context that we exist in and teaching our people of that context, particularly our young ones, to really understand that. And that's scary for many people.
Also, I think when we say culture, what we mean is an ideological framework that helps us interpret the world. And at the root of that ideology is the value system. So the reason values become important is because values cause us to have an attitude, a predisposition to things, whether we like them, dislike them. We're predisposed to act on them. We haven't acted, we're just predisposed. And then the ultimate thing is behavior. So it goes from values to attitudes to behaviors. What I think has happened to our people is, because the worldview is an invisible, behind-the-scenes operating system, we're not always in touch with how our behaviors are being influenced by the values. Case in point, I was watching the final episode of Empire last week, and my daughter, who is 28,
You
was
admit to watching that?
for educational purposes.
Okay. Disclaimer.
My daughter, who is 28, was talking about that people were having season finale parties and getting together. But if you watch the actual acting, you become very aware of the values that are being transmitted, very subtly. Obviously, the individualism, obviously, the rags to riches kind of motif. And over the series, we have watched the disintegration of caring about one another. And it's celebrated because the end result is build the empire, make the money, you follow. But in terms of the trail of death and destruction in the wake, that's become normal. So Bunky, or whatever his name was, got shot in the face. It's just one more brother got shot, dead. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
But what is happening is, as a community, we are being socially engineered to accept this as normal. Not to mention the way women are portrayed in terms of their scanty clothing, the profane language, the fighting, nothing really supportive of life. That all has become normalized. So we are trying to do business at the wrong end of the spectrum. We are looking at the behaviors and ignoring what is the underlying values that's driving all of the behavior to begin with. So if the value is individualism and materialism and militarism and white supremacy, if you haven't, until we address that value system, we're going to wind up continuing to self-destruct. So when we talk about a cooperative system, and when Nairi says the whole purpose of the society is the development of people, then we have to ask ourselves, well, what does that mean to African Americans? It means that everyone in the room, your future, your value has to be validated. King said it this way: I can never be all I'm intended to be until you are all that God intended you to be. So everybody's development has got to be priority one. Only a cooperative system does that. It looks at what benefits the entire community and puts a cooperation method in place to achieve that. We are bought into capitalism as though somehow it's going to benefit the bulk of our people. It's going to benefit a few. It will generate some millionaires. But for every 1 millionaire, we've consigned 5 million people to abject poverty, death, and destruction. Make no mistake. And I just close on this. It's simple thing. Ken Saro-Wiwa, the Nigerian brother, the environmentalist, who fought with the Ogoni people to limit Shell's abuse and destruction of their environment. I mean, Shell went in there, polluted the water, the air. The people were dying. They did not have water to drink. And Shell's response to that environmental campaign led by the Ogoni people was to kill Ken Saro-Wiwa. We didn't say anything about that, by and large, when that went down in 1995. But that's what capitalism does. It destroys the planet, but because we don't know about it, we think that somehow we can make it work in the United States. It is a global, demonic, insatiable system that is destroying black life as we would like for us to live it.
Before I pose the next question, I do have a quick announcement. There is a black Corolla in self-determination using the current economic tool of entrepreneurship and self-employment alone. Thank you. Either one.
No.
Good answer. Yes.
I'm hesitating because I think we sort of have answered this in a way, but a solution that's going to help everybody. And so I think when we, it's still part of that, the other value system, the old paradigm that, you know, we just need to be entrepreneurial, have our own businesses, and we'll get far. One of my pet peeves is that we even think that sole proprietorship, that people create their own wealth. They don't. Wealth is a social phenomenon, right? Even think about Bill Gates, right? Yeah, right, he put together Microsoft, right? But how did he do it? To use people's labor, only pay them for part of what they contribute, and take the rest as his own profit, right? Fifth, what do we have?
The internal aspects of how to repair ourselves. And that's really is the most important work of our entrepreneurs. To really look at where we are, who we are, and how do we rebuild the relationships that allow us to sustain ourselves collectively.
And just to add on, one, I want to thank Mama Marimba Ani. I meant to acknowledge her when I began for the work that she's done in helping us to understand the role of ideas in how societies organize their life. And she's identified what she calls the acely, that is the germ seed idea that then manifests itself in multiple ways throughout the social system. And in her classic work, Yorugu, she has identified what is the European acely that's at work in the destruction of black life. Now, I said that to say that we have to understand that capitalism as a system came about as the handmaiden or the mistress, I could say other terms, but I'll leave it at that, for white supremacy. I mean, it develops at the same time that European aggression is at its peak on the African continent. So they need a system, an economic model that will allow them to funnel the wealth of the entire planet into the hands of a few people. So Karl Marx, in his writing in 1867 in the book Das Kapital, identified the primary contradiction in capitalist production as this: social production and private appropriation. What does that mean? It means it takes a factory of workers to produce the products. Social production. A lot of folks, and that was the point that Sister Nembar was making, a lot of us are necessary to produce what the system uses. But the profits are stolen by the people who call themselves owners. And the way you and I get paid as the workers, they give us a portion of the withheld wages, $5 an hour, $7 an hour, maybe if we're really big time, $20 an hour, but the balance goes in their pocket. So that is the primary, and we have to understand when people are trying to sell us black capitalism, keep asking the question, but what about the primary contradiction between social production and private appropriation? And appropriation is a euphemism for theft. Capitalism is a theft system. It's stealing the labor value of the people who work. That's bad enough. The worst part of it, though, is its primary commandment is maximum profit all the time, regardless of the cost. It's insatiable. It is not sustainable. No matter how much money it makes this month, it has to make more money next month, or it will turn in and collapse on itself. So after it's robbed everybody blind in the United States, it wipes its mouth and then heads overseas, to Mexico, to the Philippines, to Africa, to China, wherever it can find more people to exploit. It is a manic and insatiable and insane system, and that is what we are up against. And the only reason it has lasted this long is because it has convinced you and I that somehow this system is benign. That's right. It's not the evil that it really is, that it's okay. And as long as we have some money in our pocket, we are willing to be bribed to look the other way.
This is something that you do want to be a part of and not have this individualistic, capitalistic mindset from here on out. Please be sure to stop by our table. You can get more information. However you want to do it, make sure we follow up so that we're not just giving you this information. information for you to figure out what to do from here. We have the information you need. We have the tools ready for us to make moves on this movement. So just make sure you don't leave here without getting any of your questions answered or signing up to be a member today.
All right.
Okay, the next question I'm going to give to Brother Uncle. Is there a such thing as the Black economy?
Wow, it's a very profound question. I guess the way we tend to look at it now is we talk a lot, in my business, in marketing and business, we talk about purchasing power, the fact that we can essentially, and I'm not sure exactly why we call purchasing power. That's kind of an oxymoron to me. But I guess it's who's looking at it, right? So from the person who's taking that money from you, that's a powerful experience for them. So $1.3 trillion a year going into somebody else's pocket just like that, essentially, that's a lot of power that is being built out. So if you're looking at economy, Black economy, in terms of taking control of the resources, of the energy, of the community that we have at our disposal, right? So I would say that what I'm saying is that there is a need for, you are a part owner, right? Cooperative of a larger economy. Technically, is that those people tend to be disconnected, unaware of how we're interacting with each other, of the potential to cooperate and to build a systematic approach to really dealing with the fundamental dilemma that we're facing is. So for me, there's a lot more work to do for us to really say that we have our own economy, the economy that we say, when we say
Employment is everybody working, because that means money is turning over and over and over and circulating in the community. We don't have to make maximum profit, we just have to make enough to guarantee that the business will continue to thrive. And you follow what I'm saying? So any business opportunity that's in our community can be taken over and run cooperatively, because our goal is full employment. Do you see the difference?
Thank you. We have one more. Just if anyone owns the Black Corolla, tag number PRM2168, or Black Chrysler Jeep, tag number PFD 5854, please remove your car. The last announcement will be sold out of these. So they may not be in this room. May not be anyone here. Don't get enough room.
Okay.
You're going to get this back? Dr. Nimbar, I would like to ask you, what part should culture play in building the Black economy?
So definitely culture needs to play a huge role. We keep talking about that we need this integration, right? The economy is not some separate thing apart or on top or whatever. It's integrated into us as human beings. So it needs to be connected to our culture, the way of life, what we want to live, right? And of course, what our aim is well-being for the total community and ways that we can solve community problems and create prosperity for everybody. We want to do that in ways that honor our belief, that you love one another, you care about each other. We want to honor our connections to Africa and African culture. We want to honor the cultures that we built over time here in the hemisphere. It's actually one of the reasons I got excited about cooperatives, because I realized that cooperatives were an economic model that didn't make you leave your culture outside or didn't denigrate your culture in order for the economics to work, but rather embraced people's culture and allowed for a way to do cultural development, culturally sensitive economic development. And so again, I think that's why we need to think about the flexibility as well as the integrity of this kind of model that really allows us to live our values and to put our values into the economic activities that we do and make sure it kind of all works in a nice package.
So just to add and more or less reiterate what we're already saying here, because we've kind of gone in depth about the role that culture is playing. You talked about the silly and the fact that you can't use somebody else's culture ever to solve your problem in a real sense, because it ultimately benefits them first. So the role that culture plays, first of all, how many people in here see themselves as either entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, somebody interested in starting a business or doing a business right now? Okay? So this conversation is about you, right? Ultimately. So this is where you have to figure out, how do you become the person who embodies the best ideals of your culture and allows that to inform your creativity in terms of your entrepreneurship and your cooperative endeavors, right? So that you actually explaining, showing, communicating through your messaging to the population why culture is the solution to the problem that we face. It's an obvious solution once you understand the problem. Right? The problem has been culturated in a different context, and so we're away from our culture, all the tools that we need to solve our problems. It's been there. We're the oldest living people on the planet. If you go back further enough, you're going to find the solution somewhere. It's been done, it's been there, we've been there, done that. Even the stuff that we're struggling with now, it's only a matter of more so forgetting than not actually having a base of knowledge historically and otherwise. So I would say to you, budding entrepreneurs, make sure you are essentially cultural ambassadors, essentially people who are understanding the importance of culture, and when you are developing and creating products and services in your business, make sure they are addressing our problems and improving the overall.
Collectively owned. Everyone in the business is a part owner of the business. That's what makes it cooperative. If the profits are privately held and privately owned, then we're replicating and duplicating the European models, and we're going to wind up exploiting those people who work with us.
What is and this question is specifically for Baba Kimbizi, what is the connection between entrepreneurs and UsLiftingUs? What is it that UsLiftingUs provides entrepreneurs or those who would become entrepreneurs or business owners as an incentive for those of you who are to join forces with us today? What's in it for entrepreneurs specifically around the banner of ULU?
For example, the first project that UsLiftingUs is promoting is the ULU Marts, which is a 100,000 square foot facility under which or in which vendors have the opportunity to promote their goods and services to our community. So the first benefit is exposure to and the creation of an expanded market of customers to your business. In other words, think of it as the Malcolm X Liberation Festival or the Essence Festival. Instead of that being an event that takes place on the weekend, it's an event that happens 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, under one roof. And you get to be in there that entire time selling and exchanging your services and your goods with our people. That puts a lot of money in circulation amongst ourselves. So that would be the first benefit right there. The second benefit is the fact that this 100,000 square foot facility is going to employ a lot of people. So a lot of folks who are standing around or in the unemployment lines, now we're beginning to be able to offer them a viable means of sustaining themselves and their families. And at the end of the day, isn't that really what's important? The fact that you can go someplace, generate income, and take that home to your family. That's two of the primary things that I see that UsLiftingUs does for the entrepreneur and for the community at large.
in addition to that, in terms of value, Brother Ankh, what does that say when the first market and exchange is up and running? What in your mind, in terms of values, has been ushered into the consciousness of black people in this country specifically?
Well, one of the things, we've had this conversation before, that most of us in here, if you think about, let's use the term brands, right? In marketing, we say this is a successful brand. Right. There, to my knowledge, and I don't see any successful black brands, right? So in other words, compared to a Walmart, a McDonald's, I don't want to call them in here, but those are brands. You can pretty much go anywhere in America and everybody more or less knows what you're talking about. If we talk about black brands, typically what we're talking about is individuals, celebrities, athletes, so on and so forth. So what ULU provides now, to me, just from that standpoint, is the ability for our people to see and know that there is a place, right, where if I want to go and get a black doll for my daughter, or I want to get something that is related to the value system that I have, I can go there and I know that it's probably there in one location because you're going to have a lot of, but I also know that that I'll have the ability to interact with people at a different level. Maggie Anderson wrote a book called Our Black Year, where she bought from black businesses for a year. And it basically is a war journal, right, of her trying to track down exactly where is the black business for people who actually want to support it. And she tracked it over a year. And it really was probably the greatest act of war since what Harriet Tubman was doing when she took people from the Underground Railroad and so on and so forth, which was an act of war. Like, she was taking, quote unquote, like, those were resources as far as the owners were concerned. So in her doing that, she said that. So it's very difficult, even if you wanted to, support black businesses today, it would still be complicated for most people. Atlanta is a little better than most places, I would say. But it's still complicated for most people to determine where it is, because when you start thinking about, things in your mind about where I can go, you can't find it. It takes a little bit of work, effort, and a lot of times people will not do that extra work. So ULU provides an opportunity for that to already exist, and all people have to know is ULUmart, and they'll get to know 100 black businesses overnight. So that's extremely valuable in that sense. And in that process, you create an environment for people to be reacculturated to their own traditional values.
Your system is you're then involved in non-exploitative relationships. So not only can you buy black and know where to get the things that you want, but you're also supporting this new alternative system that your support will help to grow it, to do more and more, to expand in other places, and to have this new paradigm, which is the non-exploitation, sharing of resources, making decisions about resources together, recirculating the resources around and through and among your community to solve your community's problems, and that the more you do it, the more you can do, and the more you can expand it.
And what quickly happens, brothers and sisters, we begin to find out how Eurocentric we are in our thinking. When it comes down to sharing resources, right? It automatically triggers in our mind this thing called fear. Because we begin to think that we're going to lose. If we share, we lose. But guess what, brothers and sisters? What has not sharing done for us? What has not cooperating done for us? Right? What has not building those healthy relationships with our people, what has that done to us? Right? So if we are sharing, no one loses. No one loses. I am because we are. It is important from a cultural perspective to understand how cooperatives are part and parcel of African culture. We share everything. And so if our goal and objective is to be the next black billionaire, then that's a fundamental indication that we don't trust the community. We don't trust the community. So much so that DJ has to appropriate or build enough wealth to ensure that I can survive. But what happens if DJ becomes a millionaire? He's just by default created 10 million people who now have to live in dire poverty. That's what we're facing. That's what we're facing. And so, of course, before capitalism is an economic system, it is first a worldview or a mindset. Right? And so we say in Ulu, when we as a people, as African people, practice capitalism, we are actually expressing white supremacy in economics. So how are we going to win? How are we going to win practicing someone else's economic system that has gotten us to the point of being oppressed?
By the bag, it's loosely.
Okay, so we see this thing, we know it's not good for us, but the question that we have to ask is,
You can just
what
put
is
a
the
teaspoon of it,
What is
put
the
it in your
solution?
cup, pour your
And
hot
what
water
role,
over it,
and this
and then
is the question
strain
from
it
our
to drink
sheet,
it.
what role can black historic universities,
I have tea bags, yeah.
HBCUs play
You try
in
it,
building
see,
the
and
new
these are
black
reusable.
economy? What role do HBCUs
This is what tea
have?
should look like
And then
to
the
give
next
you all
role is
the
the
health
church, y'all.
benefits. Okay? Now this is the mango
Because
mimosa
when we
white
talk about
smell.
how the black churches
Isn't
in
that
this
great?
country, most of
This
them
is the
have their
passion
money in
fruit.
banks
Black.
that are controlled by our
Now
enemies.
you got to smell that.
And most of those banks invest in the prison industrial complex. Let us
That's what
think
it looks
about
like.
that.
So we're not talking about that.
How do we, those who go to church and participate in that, how do you allow your preacher, your delegation, or what have you, to put your money in a white-owned bank that invests in the prison industrial complex that will turn around and lock up your son or daughter? You talk about underwriting your own oppression. So again, the question is, what role do HBCUs have or can have in building the new black economy?
So one of the things I found in my research was it actually started the co-op extension program, which was not exactly about teaching cooperatives per se, but was also about teaching to get back on the bandwagon and have cooperative economics in their programs and to actually have real functioning co-op extensions, which are going out and teaching people how to start their own cooperatives and helping them to keep their cooperatives going. Similar to the churches, I mean, my research goes back to the 1770s and mutual aid societies, and where the mutual aid societies come from, it was religious groups and fraternal organizations who were starting them. And what's a mutual aid society? Basically a SUSU, an early co-op. Members put in their money, and whoever needs it, right? The burial societies, you put in your dues, and then when you need to bury someone in your family, the mutual aid society has the money to pay for the burial, et cetera, et cetera. But almost all those were either religious-based or fraternal-based. What's important to me there is we have places where we already trust each other financially, not just, we have the social trust, sure, but in the fraternities and the churches, we already trust each other financially. We're just not using strategically that collective wealth, right? We tithe, if you go to church every Sunday, you're always putting money in the bowl and expecting something good to come out of it, but you're not following through to find out where that money went or what we did with it, right? But yet you trust, right? You know everybody in the church, or you should know your church members, you know your minister. So we need to just follow through, right? That's the next step, is to follow through. To realize that these institutions are there because we created them. And so then we need to make them work for us. So instead of now taking them for granted, we need to challenge them to do the things that we know are the right things or the way we want to do things. There are some churches that have created their own credit unions and things like that. We can go back to look at those kind of things. That's why we keep saying we have models of that stuff. We just have to remind ourselves of those models and then figure out how to make them 21st century models.
And that's socialization. And that's why the HBCUs are not functioning the way they once did on our behalf. The educational models now are socializing our children to find their place as workers or supporters in the existing dominant system. They're not turning them out to ask the question, what does my community need, and how do I use my gifts and talents to benefit my people? They are only asking the question, what do I have to do to get paid? What do I have to do to get paid? I'm not thinking about my community. And so the socialization function of the school system is also working against us.
We're going to go into our Q&A session. So for those of you who may have a question for our panelists, if you don't mind, we're going to need you to line up.
Ayani, and my question is for Dr. Nembhard. I was interested, you were beginning to talk a little bit about Fannie Lou Hamer's Freedom Farms. If you could talk a little more, kind of enlighten us on that, as well as any other historical or even contemporary examples that you think might be instructive.
Hamer's hometown of Ruleville, or near there. The purpose was to own agricultural land as a collective, to provide for affordable housing, and to create some worker co-op small factories. So they did, I don't remember exactly how many acres of land they owned, but they were able to buy some land. They did collective farming. She also was able to use some of the land to get HUD money to build affordable housing, and so co-op members got access to affordable housing that way. They started a few co-ops. I think there was a sewing co-op and maybe a child care co-op. They were also actually very involved in the Head Start movement there, so there was a Head Start program there for the children. Unfortunately, the Freedom Farm wasn't able to sustain itself. I've been actually still trying to figure out exactly what happened. But there were some mismanagement stuff, some lack of people who were trained enough in cooperative management for running it. And also, they started the farm, I forget when it was, in the mid-70s. There were like 3 back-to-back boll weevil, and then too much drought and too much rain. So the first 3 years of the farm were like the worst farming in history, so, or in that decade or whatever. So they ran into a bunch of problems, and it didn't last that long. But the vision was really important. And then, as I said, the ideology that we first really have to own our own land, make our own food, serve our own economics, because it's only from that position of strength that we can then really assert our rights and assert ourselves in the world, was an important strategy. And she's not the only one that had that strategy, but that was for me an important example, because she is one of our warriors and one of the people who really tried to assert the political rights first and found that needing the economic rights. One other example, I guess, because I know that I see there's a long line, Freedom Quilting Bee in Alabama. I like to use that example because, again, it's how important that economic independence is. So sharecropping women in Alabama realized they could sell their quilts. They sold enough quilts to actually buy 23 acres of land and put a sewing factory. They opened up their co-op and started making quilts collectively and selling them through the co-op. Because the co-op had 23 acres of land, when more and more of their members and local community members were being evicted because they were participating in civil rights activities, they were actually able to give them land to either farm or to buy from them, so that the evicted sharecroppers could actually become independent farmers. Also, the women, because they were now working in the co-op, they needed child care, they needed other supports, so they ended up using their 23 acres to have a child care program, an after-school program. They were the largest employer in their town for a while, so it's another one of those showing sort of the interlocking systems. You solve one problem with the co-op, you can solve another problem, and use the co-op for that space for independence to then support and protect your people. Most corporations are what we in economics call a black box. You don't know, you don't get to see their financials, you don't know how they make the decisions, you're not even supposed to share the business plan, right? A co-op is transparent because otherwise how can its members make good decisions if they don't know everything? So those would be the most important things, I think. Hopefully that gives you that understanding. There are co-op laws in the U.S. I think right now, when they do exist, they're decent enough for us to do what we need to do. So the huge problem there is that each state has slightly different laws.
Show that night, like a rerun. No, it's the same thing, but it's just a they delayed it. Oh, but you know, you get it off of the internet. Right. Yeah, this. Let me get one of them boxes. This box right here will allow you to disable your cable. You plug this into your flat screen or your old television, whichever one you got. You can plug this in, plug it into the electricity, plug it into the internet if you want to go online and get things off of YouTube or Hulu or what do you call it, YouTube, all like so. You can get all that to show on your own home television. Okay? Big screen, small screen, whatever. We also, if you see all these DVDs here, all of these DVDs is on one little SD card that we put in this box. And that's what's showing now, our own content. So that allows us to skip, if you don't have an internet, just go to the box. You can watch our own adventures for days. You can listen to our own music for days. Right here on this box, SD card. Okay? Disable your cable. $150 one time. No monthly bills. What do you think about it? That's good? Keep the card. All right. Ain't got no $150. All right. Well, we know you don't. You might not have brought it with you, but it's around somewhere. And the other thing I forgot to tell you. Every time that you refer somebody to get this box, you get $40 in your pocket. That's what we give you for referring other people. It's like $8 a month. What is it? That you pay by the month. Oh no, this is this right here. Oh, I see. We stepped up since we made that part. We gotta make some news. You know. Yeah, we gotta make some news. What kind of product is this? This is an Android multimedia box. Not only does it show movies, but it plays music. Not only does it play channel. What is it now? Local channel. Yeah, it has a channel selector on it, and you just click on it, and because you're hooked up to the internet, you can pull them down into the box. But if you're not hooked up to the internet, you can still use the box for your movies, or your entertainment, or your music, because it comes on regular TV on it. Yes. Regular TV. Yes. Yes. So this box was designed because we need to show our own stuff. Right. We need to see our own self. And Hollywood is not doing a good job. So we have to do it. So this is the answer to the question, how do we get rid of all of this Hollywood type of thing that we don't want to see? How do we do it? We're doing it. Yes, absolutely. Would you have internet? That's right. That's right.
traditional things having ESDs.
That's right. Absolutely.
Now, can you also say I want to go out to the internet? Can I drop it down to that SD? Like say if I say, okay, I'm gonna put a large SD card in there.
Yeah.
Can I go to the internet, find my and just drag it over,
Yes.
a file over?
Yes.
Now it's available for me.
You can purchase an SD card.
Yeah.
And go fill it up with anything you want.
Okay.
Anything.
Yep.
Stick it in that box and watch it on your big screen TV.
Right now, I got Roku. You might be familiar with Roku. And it streams, from YouTube to Netflix and all that, right? But this being separate from that, I understand, I get it. It's definitely attractive to be able to, something outside of that and stream it. So that's powerful. Basically, it's similar. It could just do more. I like the fact that SD card. I see. So this is the main.
That's the main frame.
Okay.
And then actually it has a little small drive in it that you can actually put other apps on it. I was pretty surprised to see the Skype on it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that means if you got the right kind of audio hookup, then you can make phone calls off it.
I see.
Yeah. Right now, this is hooked up to his cell phone. That's how we get the internet.
Well, actually, we hadn't messed with it, so it disconnected. But yes, it does connect wireless as well.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Because I hooked it up. Yeah, he's right. I hooked it up to my hotspot on my cell phone. Wow. I was able to pull content up like that. But yeah, I actually ended up liking it when I seen this part of it.
Oh yeah.
Many positions I serve right now as the National Secretary of the COBRA. And in that vein, I'd like to invite you to our national conference, which will be in Milwaukee this year. The dates are June 26th through the 28th, 2015. Coming up before that, though, I also serve our community as the Vice President of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa. In 1968, 500 bold activists decided to take a stand and begin the formation of creating our own nation state. This is a very important move as we talk about sovereignty and self-determination. And so every 15, and then we'll have presentations from 3 to 6. There's flyers back there on Nodi's table, there's flyers back at the Ulu table, and there's flyers on the table as you go out the door. And we have a few more flyers here. Thank you for your time. I continue to appreciate the community allowing me to serve you and to provide leadership and keep these noble programs and formations going in our community.
WADIP, World African Diaspora Union, and just making an announcement that we are going to be having a workshop on April 18th. Professor James Smalls will be discussing the art of nation building. This is going to be held at the Arts Exchange at Calv Avenue. There's some flyers going around, and there's been some announcements on the radio. Tickets for this event are only $10. You can see me or you can see other people. There's a number on here to call if you know Mama Oya. She also has tickets. And just wanted to invite everyone to come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Greetings, how's everybody? How's everybody? All right. How many of you have cable in your home? Okay. How many of you remember the Million Man March 20 years ago? Okay. I'm going to make the connection right now. Million Man March was the #1 premier event in our lifetime that happened as a result of one person saying, I want 1 million men to come to, 1 million black men to come to DC on a Monday, and got 2 million.
That's right.
What does having cable have to do with the Million Man March? If you have cable in your home, you're probably paying, I don't know, $100, $150. You know, some people pay even more. You probably remember WACP, You've seen it on the internet, you've seen it on YouTube, you've seen it all around. WACP stands for We Are Creative People, and we have an opportunity, a responsibility, and an obligation to bring creativity to our people, to ourselves, and to the world. Over there on the rack, you'll see a number of videos. It's about 30 or 40. Well, we have put, by being creative, we've put all 40 of those videos on an SD card, and you're able to access it through this box. But not only that, you can disable your cable. And we have a project, a campaign for 1 million people to disable their cable before October the 16th, 2015. So sign up right there. You'll see a sample of what we're doing on this table. The video is on, running right now. Thank you very much.
All right.
Greetings, family. Greetings. No bio. I was born doing this work. Wear a lot of hats and wave a lot of flags, but it's all in your best interest. You just have to believe me on that one. Today, I want to make sure that you're all aware that myself, as an instructor at Tamusana Kenyama Preparatory and several of the independent schools in Atlanta, will be hosting a family day, not just for schools or parents, but just for family time. On April 26th at Omenalak Rio, we want to see you all there. Secondly, today we are here. The children are selling Sankofa business cards. We have 12 businesses from West End to East Point that offer a discount. 100% black-owned businesses. They offer a discount, $10, and that money goes directly to youth programs and independent education. Please take time out to support our children, because we have to put our money where our mouth is. Thank you.
Greetings, family. My name is Mama Labantu, and 4 quick announcements. One, for those of you who may be interested in a rites of passage program for your daughters or granddaughters, it's called Sisters of Tomorrow. If you're interested, contact me before you leave. Second of all, I work as a co-director with Brother Akbar Lee with the African Council of Elders. And if any elders in the room who would like to participate with us as we help to solve issues in our community, it's another way of learning to govern ourselves by resolving issues between individuals or businesses or organizations, so that we don't expend too much or go out and spend money on attorneys, when we can handle it ourselves, and we hold these elders accountable. Third of all, in October, I think between the 15th and the 19th, I'm working with a group of people called Sustainable African Communities. We have an online summit to bring together those people who are already practicing sustainable living, who are not connected to each other, and also to have this as a way to connect with people interested in sustainable living, those people who are already doing it. And finally, the Halloween Cultural Festival will be in Lithonia again this year, the last weekend in September. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for those announcements. At this time, we're going to start our program again here at the UsLiftingUs Economic Summit. We have some entertainment for you. First up is a sister that I know. I'm from Milwaukee, and I don't think she's from Milwaukee, but she's lived a long time in Milwaukee. I know that her parents were in the service. But I didn't know how talented she really is until just a few years ago. And she does Nina Simone. She'll be doing Nina Simone here in Atlanta at Clark Atlanta University, April 25th. Without any further ado, we have Sister Azaro Day. Azaro Day in the key of Nina.
How are you all this evening? Yeah. Look at all these beautiful black faces. It seemed like the theme with a lot of people was our babies, right? Our babies are our future. They are our greatest resource. And Dr. Nina Simone, she instructed us as artists. She said the most important thing for an artist to do is to speak to the times that we are living in. And so I wrote this piece. It's called Your Future Is Mine. Baby's cracked out by Lenny Smile 40 ounce. He said, shake what your mama gave you away for a hit. Life was a trip she didn't know where it led. Open up your heart instead of ignoring the babies right under your nose. Reach your hand out before you reap what you sow. Brown-eyed boy, I want to see you smile. Pretty little girl, your future is mine. Brown-eyed boy, I want to see you smile.
Of those who silently pray and then openly destroy. No, not always have we mistaken mimicry for mastery, or pretending for knowing, or enslavement for freedom, but across my memory marches millions, bold, regal, resilient, confident, unshackled feet, stumping up spirits to guide us through this fickle material world. We like sun and moon folk, universal souls, praying our prayers and singing our songs. Eshu, Ogun, Shango, Yen, Moja, Oshun, Obatala, Oya, Dambala, Aidawedo, Ra, Nkango, Olodumare, and Yame. We know all of you by name. We are people of beginnings, of culture, of strength. Not always have we given in to the empty threats and scare tactics of the powerless ones. Not always have we allowed the blood of our sons and daughters to color the streets while we're walking asleep, marching to the beat of death siren song. They're still wearing their sheets, nooses in reach, showing their teeth and then smiling, it seems. But I hear in the breeze, in the rustle of the trees, in the dangling of the feet, they say, please, please don't let them ever forget. You see, not always have we suffered from amnesia. Not always have we forgotten how to conjure up spirit, ancestor wisdom, fix up a mixture, spiritual elixirs, ancient traditions. We like magicians, God-like vision. We are people of sight, so no, not always have we fallen for this okie doke or inhaled the hazardous smoke of the manipulators or been satisfied with crumbs from meals our hands have prepared. You said life for us ain't been no crystal stair, but at least the steps are there to push us up higher, teach us how to go beyond the destroyer's disguises, look them in the eyes and be able to see. Because what's surprising when you know the nature of a beast, and especially when they've shown the same face for centuries, huh? So you tell me, what's the difference between two sisters in New Orleans shot point blank in the back of the head and two women bombed in their car in Baghdad, or government sanctioned killings in Kenya and a sister held hostage in a house in Virginia, or poverty in Haiti, poverty in Jamaica, rape in Rwanda, or rape in Somalia, a sweatshop in China, or one in Guatemala, or smallpox and blankets, syphilis and Tuskegee, formaldehyde and FEMA, ethnic cleansing and Katrina. I recall within his speech, Dr. King made us aware. He said injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, so they can spare us that drama, huh? Look, we got the heart of them field working mamas. We carry the torch of that ancestor fire, so with every fiber that flutters in our being, with every find that comes from our seeking, with every hearing that comes from our listening, and every sight that comes from our seeing, we must be faithful, strategic, victorious, and we must be free.
I have the honor and the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker. And I have some prepared statements here that she told me, I don't like prepared statements. You know, just speak from your heart and how you know me and so forth. And so, you know. But when you introduce somebody, you must always give them in particular when you're introducing to an audience that may not truly be familiar, you must really tell who they really are, what they're really about. If you don't know Dr. Maruma Ali.
And it's probably late, Shay and DJ, in the evening to really do this justice. But Ulu is a manifestation of the whirlwind. When you think about a whirlwind, you think about a weather phenomenon, right? Generally, a tornado, a twister, a cyclone, a cyclonic weather event. But what I'd like to get you to think of for a moment, transfer that to an economy. Black Wall Street was a tornado. Black Wall Street was an example of those economic turns circulating, those dollars circulating many, many times. And one of our brothers talked about how many times the dollar circulated in Wall Street. In 32. Think about that. Hold that vision in your mind. Now what happens if someone convinces members of that economic whirlwind to, instead of continuing to do that and exchange with each other, to experiment by allowing their resources to fly out vertically into another sphere? What happens when enough of that does not continue to turn that way but flies out vertically? What happens to that vortex? What happens to the whirlwind? It collapses. That's the situation we find ourselves in today. The economy, the black economy that we talk about does not exist. We are doing business with each other in the European American economy. We, in order to be successful, must, in addition to supporting black business, and we can't be against that, we also have to engineer the creation and the sustainability of our own economy at the same time. So when you're looking at Ulu, don't just think of it as a small cooperative, a small idea, or a cooperative venture that's seeking to convince us to do business with each other. It's a much bigger prospect than that, or proposition than that. It has everything to do with supporting black business at the same time as building and sustaining a new black economy. So think of that. You'll see us from time to time, we'll say Ulu. And what do you think we're saying? That us lifting us, building the new black economy. So get in the habit of seeing us saying Ulu. 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 You begin to practice that. And do that with a brother and say, what are you doing? And explain it to him. Ulu. One of our members, from a brother from the Cameroons, Dr. Wawa, he lives in Houston. He said to us on a conference call, you all don't know how powerful that sound Ulu is. And I had no idea. It was just, we say, us lifting us or Ulu. He says it's much bigger than that. And he's a continental African. He says there is power in that word. So I want to add Marcus Garvey to that Ulu. 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 Thank you. Do we want
in the lobby? Everyone in the building.
Repeat after me. We're African people. Struggling for national liberation. To the building of a better people. And a better world. Our total devotion. Our total resources. And the total power of our mortal lives. We are the first. Sorry. We will think African. We will think African. Speak African. Speak African. Pray African. Pray African. Love African. Love African. Be African. Because we are African. We'll do everything today
Thank you, brothers and sisters. Okay, brothers, let's start. Grab